We are joined by State Senator Robert Gordon. Bob Gordon is the majority conference leader. That is in the Democratic Party in the state Senate. How you doing, Senator?
Doing real well.
You know an awful lot about transportation. You know about the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey because you are the chair of the Legislative Oversight Committee and vice chair of the Transportation Committee in the Senate, right?
That's correct.
So I'm going to ask you, for those who are dependent upon the bus terminal over on 42nd Street?
42nd, around 9th. Yep.
Right. What is going on over there, and is it going to be improved, and how long would it take? Loaded question, I know.
Well, it's a 66-year-old facility.
By the way, I should make it clear that the Port Authority is responsible for that bus terminal.
That's right, which is a bi-state agency. It was built in 1950 for buses that were smaller and not quite as heavy, and so structurally, the slabs that are used for the terminal are actually going to fail at some point. So it has a lifespan that's relatively short. And as anyone who's taken the bus to New York every day knows, it really is, it's a third world facility. People say it's just ruins their day. It's at capacity now. It's hot. It's cold in the winter. It's really just unacceptable for a civilized society, really.
Senator, you make it sound as if the state of affairs of transportation as it relates to those who have to go back and forth between New York and New Jersey, I mean, the mecca, potentially, of this country in terms of commerce, is pretty pathetic.
It is. I mean, the New York and New Jersey region, I think, represents something like 10 or 12% of gross domestic product.
Oh, just that?
And the city of New York is the economic engine for the region. Over the next 10 years, the Regional Plan Association is projecting 300,000 new jobs in Manhattan, but not much housing. That means those jobs are going to be held by people in the suburbs, and they can be New York suburbs or New Jersey suburbs, depending on whether we invest in the infrastructure needed to get people across the river.
But right now, we're not doing that.
That's exactly right. That's the problem.
So the question that needs to be asked is, how serious are those in public policy positions that anticipate or should be anticipating that these demographic changes are taking place? That this is what it is we want, which is that we're competing against other parts of the country. We're competing against others around the world to bring commerce here, to bring jobs here, but we're not doing what is necessary to move people efficiently and effectively so there aren't these log jams over by the Lincoln Tunnel.
And we had a major, probably the most important infrastructure project in the country in the Arc Tunnel that was a project canceled early in the Christie administration I think, so that he could get use of the funds there to use elsewhere and avoid a gas tax.
Well, the governor argued respectfully that where that Arc Tunnel would end was, in terms of where it would wind up in New York City, was not effective and efficient for those who were traveling on it and wasn't the right place. I mean, we can get into the debate about that, but how did that affect commuters?
Well, what it means is because he canceled that project, we're now a couple of decades away against a new, we're two decades away from a new so-called gateway project, which would build new tunnels, which is something we need to really support the New Jersey economy.
But Senator, also the other question is, I'm not here to defend the governor, but he also argued about the funding mechanism. Who should be paying for that? So when you deal with bi-state transportation, right? You've got New York, New Jersey, and the Port Authority is based on a 1921 compact, if you will, between two states, New York and New Jersey, because it is two states. What kind of balance is there and should there be between who pays for what, since you are crossing two states, and does that balance exist today?
Well, in 1921, some wise people recognized that here we have this major metropolitan area, probably the only metropolitan area in the world with a border running down it. And it could not be New York versus New Jersey. We had to think in regional terms. Because what is, the people who are supporting who are coming from New Jersey to New York are supporting the local economy and paying taxes there. So this bi-state compact was established, creating the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. And there's always been tension over the 90-plus years between the states. But I think now we're really seeing I think, a very unproductive situation
Not
where,
good.
where we're keeping a ledger sheet. How much are we spending on New York? How much are we spending on New Jersey? The governor of New York wants his projects at LaGuardia and JFK Airport, a train to the plane. We're looking at the Port Authority bus terminal is critical to our future, and the governor.
They think it's a New Jersey project, and
Governor
how
of
do
New
they
York said, well,
benefit? Governor Cuomo doesn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, he said that. And we respond. It's going to be built by New York labor, and New Jerseyans are going to be paying taxes and spending money in the city.
Before I let you out here, Senator, you are on the you're a member, a resource member of the advisory board for the Institute for Gerontology at Felician University. We deal with those folks at the university, talking a lot about issues involving the elderly. What is that entity, and why does it matter so much in terms of public policy?
Well, the Institute of Gerontology was created in 2014, I believe, with the objective of trying to do some research on the nature of aging in America, what the needs of the elderly are, what younger people should be thinking about in terms of their retirement. One of the major objectives is to learn what the needs and reality of aging are, so that the school can better train healthcare professionals. They have a School of Nursing and other healthcare schools, and they want that training program and the people who are doing the teaching to really understand what's out there in the real world. So they've created an advisory committee of people who are actively involved in dealing with the elderly, either people who are with insurance companies, or actually providers, or elder law specialists.
Or members of the legislature who deal with public
members of the
policy.
legislature. And we just had a conversation about the transportation needs
That's right.
of the elderly. And out of that meeting, I realized that what we need in the state is something like an Uber for seniors. Because it's such a huge issue for the elderly in a suburban state with limited mass transit.
Senator Bob Gordon is the majority party leader in the Democratic Party. By the way, harmony in Trenton in 2017, this kumbaya moment, you feel it happening down there? Just real quick, a few seconds.
I think that in contrast to Washington, in Trenton, the Republicans and Democrats in the legislature get along very well. It's the governor who sometimes presents a problem.
Is that the way? You're going to leave it on that note, really?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're going to have to get the governor.
Maybe that'll change soon.
Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll have all the candidates on to talk about it. Thank you, Senator. That is it for this edition of State of Affairs. Let's continue the conversation, so follow me on Twitter, @SteveAutobato. See you next week on State of Affairs. Thank you, Senator. You're going to leave on that note.
Sorry. Listen, I had to leave a little shot there.
That was good. Thank you so much.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by Bartley Healthcare, Felician University, the New Jersey Association of Health Underwriters, Wells Fargo, PSE&G, JFK Medical Center, and by Johnson & Johnson.